Joining us today is Chris Dreyer, the president and founder of Rankings.io. At Rankings.io, he works exclusively with personal injury law firms to help them rank on Google. He focuses on ranking his clients for high-volume, competitive search terms. Chris has focused in on his niche and understands it better than most. Thanks for being on the show, Chris.
John, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. I wanted to first start off with tell us a little bit about how you got started in this whole SEO space and how do you become such an expert in just this niche? So when did it start and how did you get the ball going?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. So I have a history education degree, and my first job, I was hired at a high school to be a detention room teacher.
Oh, no way.
And so I had the worst students, and none of them were prepared or brought their homework. It was basically, I was just babysitting for the most part. I hate to say it like that, but it really was. You know, I tried to help where I could, but there were many days where I didn't have any students, or it was just had a lot of downtime. So I typed in the worst phrase you could ever type in currently, how to make money online.
Okay.
And after like getting through all the surveys and stuff to make, money with filling out surveys and all those, I found Ed Dale's 30-day challenge to make your first $10 with affiliate marketing.
Okay.
And I think I made like $20.
Okay.
But I was hooked. So then it gave me the foundation to self-learn. So I went out to the Warrior Forum. The Keyword Academy was an old forum that I went to, and just started consuming as much as I could. And I really just got obsessed with affiliate marketing. And by the end of my second year teaching, I was making considerably more than I was for my salary. So fortunately, I got paid, those summers off. I still got the salary because, teachers get paid summer off. And it was an easy transition, and I just pursued affiliate marketing full time. I had, I would say, at least 80 sites. I ranked number 1 for double chin, how to stain concrete floors, acai fruit, alcohol withdrawal, alcohol poisoning. I mean, portable generators. I was selling everything.
Yeah.
I had all these niche sites. And around 2011, that first penguin algorithm hit.
Oh, okay.
And it just nuked me. Yeah. I went from like, let's say, I don't remember at the time what I was making, but let's say 15,000 a month to like 2,000.
Yeah.
So it was like pretty drastic. And it was because I wasn't doing the tactics that provided value for long-term evergreen value. Yep. I was just writing content to target a keyword.
Yep.
I was just getting a link just to get a link.
Yep.
So it was a good learning lesson. But to kind of this long-winded way of answering your question is, I got into consulting after that. So I saw that there was an agency in St. Louis that needed an SEO guy. And I was like, well, I'm only making $2,000 a month. I need to get a job. So I worked for this agency, and I rose to the top, and I became their top SEO guy. And I really understood the landscape, and their primary vertical was legal.
Okay.
So after a few years, and they were a full service shop, but they were really a design agency.
Okay.
They were not really an SEO agency. It was kind of like a side gig for them.
Okay.
So I just told them I was going out on my own. I was really transparent. They're like, what vertical are you going into? And I'm like, legal. They didn't love that, but I was really honest and transparent. That's what I really like, the competitiveness of the legal vertical, and I helped train my replacement.
Nice.
I never took any of their clients, was really,
nice.
Strict on being as ethical as possible. And that's when I launched attorneyrankings.org.
Okay.
That was where I started, and just got in the legal space. And then we can talk about kind of how I've got the PI later, but that's kind of the journey that I was on.
That's awesome. So I don't know if I told you this, but I was working back in 05, 06. I was working performance online marketing company. And it was all affiliates. And I was dealing with everything from not just email, but banner ads, contextual, but really the CPA, CPS, CPM aspect of things. And I was seeing all these sites like yourself, competing with ClickBanks and all the big affiliate sites, right? So I ventured into it for a short period of my life, but I didn't really enjoy it because I was dealing with fairly large companies and you didn't really have that personal relationship. All they care about was acquiring new customers, but didn't really care about you get, 3 fields and you sell it, right? As a lead, right? As a lead gen kind of service. And you didn't really see outside of that what it really had an impact on, right? So it was short term, but I didn't really enjoy that whole space to a level where SEO really is all about longevity if done right. It's all about sustainability and positioning yourself as that thought leader, right? Authentic authority. And that's why I have started this agency. I'm sure that's why you started yours as well, right? So we usually have a story and then we pivot. So that's cool to hear. So did you becoming a business owner, was there, growing up, was there people that inspired you to become one, or people, family members or mentors?
That's a great question. So I have a very successful uncle, Alec Dreyer. He has been the CEO of major corporations, very, very successful. That it was really interesting to see that and hear, kind of be immersed around him, listening to him. But also my sister. So my sister started, she was an entrepreneur, and they have a plumbing company. And they've got, I'm going to say 30 to 40 employees. They're 8 figures, plumbing agency. And she was the one that really pushed me to do the agency side. I was considering just going back to affiliate marketing. I had a team built, an overseas team, and I really knew the space well, and I knew I could succeed. I kind of took the lesson, but she kind of convinced me to go out and start an agency. And from the business side, I was really green. So I went to a business incubator and got some knowledge there, and talked to other agency owners, really followed what they were doing, read a lot online, and I started just doing intentional reading. Okay. So if I needed help with sales, I would read every sales book that was out there, all of them. Yeah. If I needed help with finance, Profit First, whatever book it was David C. Baker's book on finances, and I would just read everything. And I got into this habit where I was just consuming a ton of books, and I still have the habit. Haven't read quite as many. I think I'm at like 28 books this year. So I'll hit probably 50 books, but definitely not at the peak. So it was just a lot of self-knowledge and just kind of getting in the weeds. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's amazing, because as an entrepreneur, there's people that kind of get born into it, and then there's people that are kind of taking it on as a journey, right? Like this is in you, but you don't even know it's really happening, right? And you just want to do good and do better. So like myself, I read a lot of blogs, read a lot of books, and if you don't know, you either ask, find someone that is knowledgeable, that's an expert that you want to gravitate towards, or you try to self-taught, right? But I always say, as much as you read and as much as other people tell you, you got to get in and grind it out, right? Get dirty. You learn in the affiliate world, you learn in your agency that nothing is better than doing it yourself and learning firsthand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you have to take those licks. You can read them, but it'll just kind of go over the head. You can read the exact same book a second time, but after you've had that experience, it'll just be entirely different. I'm also very intentional about education. So the first 3 years I was in, or maybe not the first 3 years, but I was in Vistage for 3 years. So it was with other business owners. Vistage is like a CEO advisory
Yep.
board, kind of like
Yep.
almost like a mastermind, a local mastermind. Now I'm coached by Carl Sakis. He's my executive coach, and then I'm also in a mastermind, Jason Swink's digital agency mastermind. So I'm still doing those types of things, but now the difference is it's not all just me reading and self-teaching, my self-taught education. It's I get to kind of hear from my peers and kind of see what they're doing to tackle certain challenges that they have, and that's been really helpful as well.
Yeah, I think, people get so pigeonholed into just one industry, right? And that's what SEO is ours, right? Like we only understand SEO lingo, SEO blogs, following just SEOers. But as a business owner now, you have to understand what other business owners are going through and their challenges in terms of processes, operation, HR, all these other factors that you don't really learn unless you're a owner yourself, right? So it's great
Yes.
that you're doing that. In terms of like dreaming, in terms of having your ideal career or job, was this something that you always wanted, like be your own boss, or what did you want to be when you grew up?
So I told my parents they wanted me to go to college, and I told them before I even entered college that I'm going to get a degree in something, but I'm going to be a business owner.
Oh, nice.
So I ended up with a history education degree because I was really into sports and wanted to coach, and I thought that would be a good experience, a learning experience of being a leader. But I knew that I was going to be some type of entrepreneur, whether it was an affiliate marketer or a business owner. Knew that that was the path that I was on.
That's awesome. And then over the years, I know you mentioned you pivoted from the affiliate world to your agency. So how long ago was that? How long did you stay in the affiliate game versus running your business and then refining it to even niche down further?
I think I was in the affiliate business for 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
In the agency space, I started in 2013,
Okay.
and we've been ramping up pretty aggressively every year. Pretty good growth. We've hit Inc. 5000, 2018, 2019. We'll probably get it 2020 again. It's been an interesting journey though, because we started off as full service for legal.
Yeah.
And then we got rid of PPC, and then we got rid of design, and then we decided that we were just going to work with PI. So it was like we kept niching down, but and the market, the market opportunities, there's less individuals, but it really helped from a marketing standpoint for conversions, sales, really being able to understand the audience and provide an extreme amount of value. There's a lot of built-in efficiencies for working with one industry, and that's kind of the journey I've had with our agency.
That's amazing. Yeah, like even when I started my agency, I just said I'm going to do SEO. I didn't even want to touch any ads. And I focused on local because my background was Yellow Pages, right? I was there for 5. And therefore, I just knew my market. So once you define it and niche down, you know who you want to service and who you want to become, right? The sooner you're able to figure that out, the better you are. The business will, ramp up to get more of those ideal customers of yours, right? But you don't know until you get into it and figure out who are your good clients and bad clients, right? And who you want to serve. So those are great things I'm hearing from you. So over the last, say, 3 years, I know you've been ramping up. Were you pivoting during these times as well, or reducing some of the service offerings and really refining your processes and streamlining the type of clients you're going after?
So there's a data component and kind of a little bit of a risk theory component to all this. So at the end of, I think, our 3rd year, we looked at our P&L and it was like our profit margins for design was not great.
Yeah.
And we looked at PPC and they weren't great. We were making money, and we had a decent book of business, but I looked at the opportunities one of the things that I always talk about that maybe isn't just out there, you don't consider. So every time that you take on an additional service, it makes it harder for certain referral relationships because there's a threat of poaching. But if I only do SEO, I can partner with a PPC only agency because they don't care that I do SEO. And I don't care that they do PPC. There's no threat of them taking our client. But if I'm a full service agency and someone's gonna, someone needs help, they don't want to, and they're an SEO shop, they don't want to refer to a full service agency because they're afraid that maybe they'll like working with me better and want to take the SEO business. So every time you niche down, it makes it easier to identify, first of all, what that person does. Like everyone knows I work with PI. They know I do SEO. It's like immediately clear. It's not a full service like, well, what do they really do?
Yeah.
And it just makes it a lot easier to refer out because there's no threat of poaching.
Yeah. And that's, once I learned that early days, because at Yellow Pages, I was selling a lot of SEO and PPC, but margin wise and the type of renewal rate I was getting on them was dramatic differences. Like, if you're running a good campaign, the stickiness factor, right? And it's the retention rate as well as the recurring revenue model that is very important in businesses. And if you're able to have a sustainable business, that's what it's all about, right? How do you move from the SaaS model in tech to more an agency so that you're getting some sort of recurring? And that's what affiliate world is all about too, right? It's like, how do you get that monthly recurring to sustain your peaks and valleys in a business? So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, let me jump in on that for just a second. Sure. So you mentioned, okay, the project work, I heard this quote. With project work, you're always one project away from going out of business.
Yeah.
You don't get that next project, you're done.
Website design.
Yeah.
Like that's the worst industry, but people do it. They love it. So, yeah, I stay away from stuff like that. I only take on website projects. I do it just if they're going to sign with me with SEO. Like, it's really as an add-on, but I wouldn't just take on a project for the sake of doing it.
I think the model as a whole is 100% wrong. And the agency that does what I'm about to say next will really succeed. Is design should be sold as a subscription.
Yep.
Because design, you constantly need your site updated with images, new photography, refreshing for new technology.
Yep.
It's not just a one and done thing. And I think if a design shop was changed to be a recurring model, they would have that predictable income to be on the forefront and innovative to truly serve their clients.
Yep.
That gets around chasing the money situations with bad clients. And
well, it's SEO, right? Like the technical aspect of it all, from implementing to, making all these changes, these updates all the time. You need to add it on a monthly retainer, right? Like, it's the same thing with website design. Like, anytime there's a UX change or update on, any pages or whatever it is, different campaigns, you need to add that service offering because it's time. Somehow you got to account for it, right?
Yep.
So as you know, some of these listeners on today's podcast are just starting off, right, in their journey, not just in SEO or agency, but really business in general. Has there been any, can you provide some tips over the course of many years as you've grown your agency to some of these new business owners that they can benefit from?
Well, let's start with the business tips. I would just immerse yourself and read some of the best books. I would read Ready, Fire, Aim. I would read the Traction books, EOS and Traction, and I would read E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber. But I would really talk to a lot of people that have already succeeded in doing what you are that you want to try and do. Maybe it's a shoulder niche, maybe it's not your exact niche you're entering, but I would really try to congregate and hang out with those individuals. The other thing is, if you're talking about SEO, learning SEO and just marketing in general, you have to really experience those things yourself. And what I would say for SEO, take some basic courses, take some, jump into some strong courses. So I would say Nathan Gotch's course, Gotch SEO, is a great one. And, there's a lot, it's very well laid out, and, it has a lot of the foundations around SEO. But I would just say, in terms of general business advice and growing, it's just immerse yourself around people that are doing similar things.
Yeah, that's a great thing you're talking about. Like, surround yourself with the right type of people that will support you and embrace it, right? Because these entrepreneurs are the most giving type of people I found. They're great leaders for a reason. They're successful for a reason, and they want to provide valuable input. They love to see other people succeed, because the ones willing to reach out typically are the ones that actually make it way longer and further than the ones that are trying to do everything themselves, right? And you're putting way too much stress on yourself. You're trying to figure things out when you can shrink time by just asking a question, right? And there's a bunch of communities today, like social media. There's groups, there's paid groups and networks, right? Or there's free ones, but every time you pay, you're obviously getting way more value from it, right? Like, people that are paying, just like in anything in life, anything that's free, be hesitant on it. But if you're serious,
no sunk cost.
But if you're serious, that's where you need to put in that, whatever, $100, $200, $500 a month, or whatever it is. It's a cost of business, right? If you want to be successful, like, you got to put in some money, right?
There's a ton there. So when you pay for something, when someone pays for something, then it's more value. It's like a personal trainer going to the gym. It kind of forces you to go.
Yeah.
Versus if you don't pay for something, there's the no sunk cost, psychological triggers there. So, I didn't spend any money. It wasn't a waste of my time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. In terms of like technology, I know it's been changing, right? Over the last, 3 years, even 5 years, right? Especially in this SEO world, we are on top of all different softwares to try to shrink time, become more efficient, figure out what's going on with different algorithms and different things. But in terms of your company, have you implemented different platforms or software that actually allows you to communicate better, streamline some of your, efficiencies, I would say, and make you become more effective?
So we've tested about every project management tool, and we've used a bunch of tools. I'll tell you what we're using right now. It may change, but currently Slack is our main communication channel. Yep. And that's what we use for communication. We start threads, we put in news, everything's categorized there. We use Trello as our main task management platform. So we truly use it for task management, not necessarily a repository that's storing things. So more for workflows. So Kanban, we're really big into Kanban, Kanban, however you say it. And we just use Google Drive and Google Docs for our knowledge base and storing important information and things like that. We have looked at other things like Notion and Teamwork and all these other tools, but we're pretty strict on Slack for communication, Trello for task management, and Google Docs and Google Drive for the repository holding stuff. CRM wise, we use Pipedrive.
Yep. And
we like it because it kind of mirrors Trello a bit, and that's our basic setup in terms of SEO, Ahrefs, SEMrush, agency analytics, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think people get so caught up with different software. I think what works for you and your agency, and it's how your team actually adapts to it and adopts it, right? And if everyone's on board, everyone is comfortable using it and can just effectively be on it, communicating. And that's the challenge, right? A lot of these agencies, they're so caught up with the newest and greatest and get sold on different software. It's like, I just go simplistic. I just, yeah, Asana, you can have Trello, you can have anything, right? Like you can even use Skype or WhatsApp or whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? Have groups, have Google groups or whatever, email groups, Gmail, whatever works, right? And people kind of get too caught up with it. And because we're in the technology space, people always want like the greatest, right? Or whatever. I feel like it's whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as it works for you and your business, right? But then there's a lot of people that aren't even in this tech space. They don't even know what we're talking about, right? But there are tools and softwares that can help you as a business owner grow and become way more productive and effective. So look at what's out there and test it, play around with things, right? Because when you are paying for a tool, they should be able to save you time, right? Reduce some of the errors, right? And hopefully that allows you to become more profitable doing things that you can generate more revenue from. And ultimately that's what it's all about, right? Make sure that you reduce your times on stuff that is, very tedious and focus on what is generating you more sales and revenue, right? And profitability ultimately.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
I know you mentioned like, when you started your agency world, you were doing a lot of networking. Could you explain and dive into that a little bit more deep? Because, a lot of people are afraid of sales, right? Or getting out there. So what would you say in terms of people that are just starting off in terms of an entrepreneur?
So I was just giving a ton. Gary Vee's jab, 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 right hook, whatever, or left hook. I can't remember the name of his book, but I socially congregated on with social media. So I was heavily involved on Google Plus, which is now gone.
Yeah.
But I had a huge following on there. Just a gigantic following. So that's where I got some of my initial leads, is because I was just providing value and just answering questions and being available and being willing to work for nothing, and trying to get that reciprocity trigger going a little naturally. Yeah. So I really just hung out a lot on Google Plus and LinkedIn, and thankfully LinkedIn's really paid off. It's starting to pick up steam, and it's really growing. And that's what I did. So I went and read information that was around what I felt I had a higher level of expertise about. And then I would just answer people's questions and try to provide value. And that's how I got those first few clients. And then I got referrals from those clients, and it kind of built up this momentum. Then you start getting a little extra net profit and revenue. Then you can invest more into marketing and ads and whatever avenue you want to go to. But it was this momentum effect that all originated from just providing value and being helpful for those that had questions online.
That's amazing what you're saying. Like give. I read a book, Adam Grant's Give and Take. Amazing book as well. The more you give, and I always look at today with technology, social media, and G plus and building communities, right? Where everything can be done at home and you can hit so many people. Traditionally, you would go to a networking event, plan it, travel, spend a couple hours, and everyone's giving out their real estate business card and mortgage, insurance, all those people. But those aren't your ideal customers, right? So for you, that's how traditionally networking worked. And that's what people think of networking, right? But today's world, and you were in the affiliate space, you understand how many people are in front of a computer on a daily basis. So for you to tap into that huge market of potential people navigating, searching, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, and all these things, and really just providing value. And that's one thing that I love hearing, like give and don't expect anything in return.
Right.
Because when they sniff that you are in it or reciprocal, like you want to get something and you got to give something to get something, people don't want to deal with you, right? Like do business with those type of people. But if you're genuinely wanting to help them and you actually care, that's different, right? But not a lot of people will do that because they're not in the same situation as you are. in order to do that. So you have to be in a good state where you either have a full-time gig, really stable income, salary, to start doing these side things as a, I don't expect anything, right?
Yeah, and
Where,
that's what I did too. That's what I did too, John. So, when I was working at the other agency, I was a very diligent, very, dependable employee. But on the side, I was writing recommendations for people on LinkedIn. I was blogging. I was doing all these things to help. And the other thing is I think many people nowadays are more introverted.
yeah,
So the thought of me going to a networking event it just scared the hell out of me. Just being transparent, like giving out my card, like that's just terrifying. Whereas, oh look, there's an article about link building. Oh, I can comment about that.
yeah,
It was just a way easier, less friction, and look, I didn't have to talk to this person ever again. So if they didn't like my reply, then
yeah.
I could be gone. Versus being stuck in a room and that's just terrifying, even today for me.
Yeah, personality traits for sure. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit different because I've always loved that sales environment, getting in front of business owners. So that was my comfort level. I'm actually complete opposite. I don't
Yeah,
enjoy going on social media and doing these things. That's why I have my staff that enjoy it, right? Find people, do things that you are passionate and actually are strong at, and focus on what you enjoy doing, right? So you don't
yes,
stress over these things that you don't really enjoy. And that's what I've learned over the years. Like, focus on what you are passionate doing. Let other people deal with stuff that you hate doing, right? And then you'll be less stressed and you'll strive and succeed way more faster, and you'll become more profitable at the end. Um,
absolutely.
in terms of drive, right? Like right now, I know you've been doing, focused on personal injury. Um,
Mhm.
what motivates you today? Like what's your purpose? Why personal injury, and why just SEO?
So why personal injury? So it came down to a revenue component and liking to work with personal injury attorneys. So at the end of 2019, we looked at our revenue, do our P&L, and we identified that 70% of our revenue came from less than 50% of our clientele base as
Yeah,
personal injury attorneys. So we just decided to pursue it full time. And, that came with a lot of marketing benefits. We know exactly where our prospects hung out. We could, change the demographic targeting, focus just on PI. So there's a lot of benefits there. Um, and we just I genuinely like the space because of my competitive nature. In the legal vertical, that's the most competitive niche there is.
yeah,
So there's like a sense of fulfillment whenever when one of our clients ranked number one for car accident lawyer, truck accident lawyer, personal injury lawyer, as opposed to working with a trademark attorney or family law, and you
yeah,
rank
yeah,
number one, and it doesn't just seem like there's a lot of challenge. And the competition actually drives up the production cost and the things that you need to do in order to generate results. So there was just a lot of opportunity for PI. And I also just made the consideration of attorneys have been around forever. And are people going to stop getting injured? No, people are always going to get hurt and get into accidents. And so there's probably always going to be some form of personal injury law. In terms of SEO, that's just 14, 15 years of doing SEO. It's what I have. So you get this basic level of understanding, and then you can kind of read other stuff. But now you can see, you can identify opportunities from numerous sources, and you can evaluate. I can't think what it's called. There's recall, and then you come up with this higher level of self-awareness. So it allows me to be innovative in a space that's highly competitive, which allows me to stay out in the front, and to generate more clients, higher fees, things like that. I just really enjoy SEO. A lot of times people think of SEO as just ranking web pages, but there's SEO for everything. So there's search engine, you can create keywords and target keywords on playlists for YouTube. You can just your image file names and audio strategies and review strategies. So SEO is a bit broader than I think most people think of it, and it kind of has this overall impact into other channels as well.
Amazing. So aside from business, because we've been talking about, you know, your agency and whatnot, what really is some of the other pillars? Because I know you read a lot, and you know, is family a big pillar right now? Health, because of what's going on, you know, and then your community. What other pillars really go with your values?
So definitely family and relationship, my wife, and you know, it's just huge, and we try to, you know, constantly do things, you know, go on trip. Well, it's a lot more difficult now, but spend quality time together. In terms of, you know, it's just different now. It's because there's not a lot of things. You know, last year I had went on several vacations and got away from the house, but now it's like you have to figure out different ways to have fun, so to speak. Yeah, I would say for me, work is a passion, and people are like, "Oh, you got to balance work and life." I really enjoy what I do, and I don't consider it work. And I think if you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not that, oh, I'm about to clock out at 5. It's more the opposite. I got to set an alarm clock to clock out at 5, or else I'll just keep working. I'll work all night. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And, you know, when I'm sitting on the couch, it's not me playing a video game or you know, surfing Instagram and Facebook. It's me like trying to work on my business because I just enjoy it. It's like it's all, I think of it as my video game that pays me for life. So those are the types of things. I'm really into sports, Tar Heel basketball fan. But yeah, it's just trying to spend time with the family, trying to still have those hobbies and hang out with friends and when you can. And yeah, that's a bit about.
That's amazing. I think the big thing is depending on where you're at in your life, right, will dictate what you're going to push and devote more time to, right? If early days, like as an entrepreneur myself, I would devote a lot of hours. But then when I became a dad, I need to spend more time with my son, and I had to change my, you know, timing, right? Like I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning today, every day, to do my self-reflection, read, do whatever I need to catch up, and put a task list of agenda. But I need to tap out because I want to spend time with my son and do things as a dad should, right? Like you just have to change your lifestyle depending on what you value. But yeah, it's great to hear like business should be fun. You should get to a point where it's not feeling like work, right? And a lot of people get caught up like, oh, it's so stressful. Oh, it's another day. I got to go to work. Well, if you enjoy it and you actually want to help and you're a giver, right? And you want to see people succeed, and that referral or that call you get from your client saying you're doing a great job or whatever, that's way better in terms of fulfillment than the pay that they give you, right? Like just rewarding in a sense of achievement, right? That you know you're doing good, right? So that's what life should be all about in entrepreneurship, right?
Absolutely.
So in terms of like, I know you just mentioned you're a big basketball fan. I'm a big Raptors fan, and last year, as you know, that was like epic. And this year, I know things are slowly getting back, and we'll see, right? In terms of basketball, but I'm a big sports fan as well. And you have to have hobbies, right? Like work is work, but if you enjoy work like a hobby, then you know, that's what you should focus on. Have fun, right? And I'm more of a social person, right? Like getting together with people in real life. So it's been challenging the last 3 months for me.
Yeah.
It's just different, right? You just have to adapt. So a lot of the Zoom calls is, you know, my way of reaching out and having this social aspect because you don't get that anymore, right? So thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time. One thing I did want to mention is where can some of your listeners, my listeners, get a hold of you or reach out if they're interested in some of your services?
Yeah, just go to rankings.io. That's the best way to get in touch with us.
Perfect. And I'll also link it on the podcast as well, on the
Awesome.
show notes. So please reach out to Chris if you're a personal injury lawyer and you're looking for some of his services, because he is an expert in the space. And I really want to thank you, Chris, because this was a lot of fun getting to know you. And this is the first time me talking to you as well, but I had a lot of fun, and it was great to
Awesome.
talk to someone that's actually passionate and enjoys what they do at the same level that I kind of do. And it's great. Thanks a lot, Chris.
John, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome.